Since its introduction in 2006, the Met's Live in HD program has had a transformative impact on the opera world. They have brought opera, specifically the Met's operatic performances, to an extremely broad and still expanding public. And the screenings have been embraced by many longtime opera-goers, as well as by people who are relatively new to opera. The largest study to date of the Live in HD program was done in 2009 by Opera America in partnership with Chagall Research. And the study really bears out the fact that the HD opera transmissions have tremendous appeal for their spectators. According to the study, 74% of Met HD audience members surveyed had been to a Met HD transmission previously. 90% of them said that they would be very likely to attend another one. So these are happy customers. There have been concerns about the HD program as well. First of all, attendance. Are the HD screenings in fact decreasing the audiences for live opera? This is of particular concern to companies outside of New York. Beyond the attendance issue, there are aesthetic issues. For instance, sound. The sound in a movie theater can obviously never be as fresh or as true as the experience of hearing opera singers live. Another aesthetic issue is the difference between theatrical and cinematic space. Visual interest in the opera theater has to do with filling the proscenium. Visual interest in film and video has to do with filling the frame. And those two can pull in opposite directions. So we're backing in here to a question that Alex Ross touched on in a recent article in The New Yorker, which is, are opera productions somehow being designed now with the cameras in mind? That's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Are the HD cameras a faithful mirror of the production and that only? Or are they in some way to become a scalpel that can help influence the form of the productions themselves? And the first question I'd like to ask is to Dr. Large. You've done so much work for TV in addition to HD transmissions. Do you see your task as being essentially the same with HD as in your television work, or have your priorities shifted in some way?
To be very, very honest, I think a great deal of blah, blah, blah is actually spoken about working in HD. I think basically there is a grammar which is, it is necessary to be able to speak, to be able to try to be a storyteller, to be able to direct what one is trying to direct. And yes, of course, technology is different in HD, but to be very honest, I believe that the technique of televising storytelling, which is basically what we're doing, interpreting or documenting, has not changed from the days when we would work in black and white with no stereo sound, to the days now we are working with surround sound with all the best possible technical means. I think the grammar, the technique, has not changed a great deal. Yes, of course there are new toys. There are many toys that you can be given, or maybe you can ask for. You can have cranes, you can have mobiles, you can have remote cameras, you can do all sorts of funny tricks. It's like being in a circus. But is it really necessary? Is it really pertinent? Does it really add anything further to the dramatic purpose of telling a story that Wagner created in his great music dramas, and which I believe it is the purpose of a director to be able to translate, to be able to interpret, to be able to document, and to be able to bring people of all ages, but particularly people of the next generation, into the great beauties and the joys of opera. And I would like very much to feel that it's not because of the toys and the tricks and the mobiles and everything else that we are bringing a different audience to what the composer gave us to interpret.
As a member of a production being filmed in HD, how, if at all, is the performance different on a night or afternoon when the opera is being filmed?
How is it different because of...
Because it's being filmed.
It's not different at all. I'll tell you what filming opera in HD transmissions are and what they're not. What they're not is 4,000 people coming to the Metropolitan Opera to watch us make a movie to be transmitted into cinemas. It's the hundreds of thousands of people around the world dropping into cinemas to watch us create live opera remotely. Because at the end of the day, the people the people in the Met have paid more money. but it's that's just a joke. It's a theatrical performance. We're in a live theater, and I have to reach who's ever up at the top of Family Circle, even if I'm doing something intimately, or it's for the person in the last row. So it's if you're finding yourself finding intimate close-up moments or a two-shot in the cinema that's just, they did it just. It's up to the guys in the control truck to find these moments and to edit within those moments. And that's a nice close-up, but it's for the people live in the house, first and foremost, and always. Absolutely. No one's ever asked me to, can you do this for the camera? Can you do this for... No director, and usually the person who's directing it for the stage is not the person directing it for the screen.
When you've had opportunities to see the same production live and in HD, what are some of the things that you feel the HD got right?
Well, first of all, there's what you mentioned before, this whole idea of close-up and the ability to capture those really intimate moments. And there have been times in watching the HD when I found that the performance in the HD was actually more effective than the performance in the house. And I did a piece about this for Opera News, where I went to see the Anna Bolena at the Met, first in the house, and then I went to see it in the HD. And in the house, I actually thought it was a pretty boring show. It was dull looking. The set was this big sort of, monolithic thing that didn't do very much. And it was dull in color, and the costumes were all black. And they were incredibly detailed, but you couldn't see them in the house. And except for King Henry, who had this fabulous gold suit. So you would have thought that the opera was all about King Henry, which of course it wasn't. But once you got into the movie theater, and you had the camera working, suddenly the director, the HD director was creating angles. He was creating drama. And he was creating drama where there actually wasn't drama happening on the stage, both theatrically and musically, because I felt that it was musically sort of dull too in the house. But there was a feeling of actual musical excitement going on in the movie theater because of the constant cutting and changes in focus for the cameras. So in fact, I think that sometimes an HD broadcast can actually rescue a production that isn't.
Dr. Large, when you're rehearsing a shoot, do you ever communicate directly with the singers, or is that the province of the stage director?
I do actually communicate because I know so many singers are in the dark as to who is actually being responsible for their performances visually, for their presentation. And I've always made it a point, without treading on too many toes, I hope, of literally going around the dressing rooms and simply saying, good evening, do you know, can I introduce myself? I'm here to help you. If I can, please get in touch with me if you have problems. I've always done that. I think not so many television directors do it, but it has actually paid off enormously both ways. Not only for me to be able to help a singer, but for singers to know that there is basically a director who's a musician that they can come to talk about music, musical points, talk about language, whatever it is, talk about shots. Recently I was doing a show in Germany, and a wonderful artist came to me and said, look, I like what you're doing, but you know, why do I look like a 53-year-old Santuzza? And this is a real event. This is a true thing. And the answer is, she did not look like a 53-year Santuzza, a 53-year-old Santuzza, but she felt that I was not getting what she wanted. And it was a constructive question and a constructive dialogue. And between us, we were able to find a way where she was not looking like a Santuzza, but like a wonderful Lola. It's a question of presentation. It's a question of honesty and a question of being direct and communicating. And it's there because artists need sometimes, they're very insecure, sometimes totally insecure, and they need to be given confidence to be able to go out and do this incredible job. And this is what I think is part of my job, to be able to go to an artist and say, look, I'm here, let me help you if I can.
Bravo, bravo.